Hi everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to this talk, an incident response deep dive, exploring ScreenConnect in CVEs 2024, 1708, and 1709. Now super quick, before we dive into things, I do have to cruise through the obligatory credibility slide. Just a who am I, a little bit of background. Look, my career, diving into the industry, kind of first got started getting my feet wet with the United States Coast Guard. I attended the Coast Guard Academy, studied up on electrical engineering, computer science, and some cybersecurity there. Then I pivoted over to the Department of Defense to work as a teacher, instructor, and curriculum developer with the Cybercrime Center and their Cyber Training Academy. Following that, I jumped over to the Defense Threat Reduction Agency to do a little bit more work on the keyboard as a red team cyber operator, and now I've finally found a little bit of what I call home. Really love the fulfilling work that I do at Huntress as a principal security researcher there. Some folks might be more familiar with the work that I do online, just trying to share education, content, video, and material on cybersecurity education over on YouTube or LinkedIn or Twitter, but having a lot of fun with it. And with that all out of the way, let's get to the good stuff. But first, if I may ask, I don't know if you could raise your hand, some silly virtual audience participation. Has anyone heard of ScreenConnect? This is ConnectWise ScreenConnect, and it's some software that really acts like remote desktop software or remote control for troubleshooting, for access between technicians and other help desk, system administrators. You can think of it like a team viewer or any desk equivalent with a whole lot of power. And it is just about everywhere. This is used by a lot of managed service providers, other organizations and businesses to help monitor and control and connect to all their computers and endpoints. But if we walk back in time a little bit, bringing us back to February of this year, this is, hey, a previous case. But we, over at my day job at Huntress, I'll admit, wanted to share this story with you here for a real case study and how we could see all of our Security Operations Center analysts spring into action and how much I just super appreciate them all for that work. But this thing kicked off on Monday, February 19th. And Jamie was saying, hey, you know what? At least it's Monday. And she included this link to an advisory, another update, security release from ConnectWise, the company behind ScreenConnect, noting that there is a potential vulnerability in this ScreenConnect software. And at least it's Monday and not us all chasing this all on a Friday or long weekend or holiday week, you know? So this piqued our interest and was something where all of us, security researchers, the SOC analysts, detection engineers, we'll spring into action and suit up, right? So when we take a look at that advisory, the ScreenConnect 23.9.8 version had a weakness, and there was a new update and a patch released that was that same day, February 19th, that had a critical severity. Big deal, high priority, and the suggestions, all of the advice was to immediately upgrade to the latest version of ScreenConnect. This was a big deal. And that kind of piqued our interest. That got us scratching our head saying, okay, this is something we should probably track because this software is just ubiquitous and has so much control over other downstream computers and endpoints. And that is when the whole Security Operations Center and everyone kind of rallies the troops and we spring into action. Now, I don't mean to get too nerdy or too technical here, and I'm sorry, I know I'm already kind of walking a thin line with code up on the screen. Look, I don't mean for your eyes to glaze over, but I do want to give you some insight and some details and background context on how we could uncover that vulnerability. Because the advisory, the information that was shared on that website and post here, didn't have a whole lot of other information. No other technical information as to what was really wrong other than just the suggestions and recommendations to immediately patch. So we had to do a little bit of our own homework and some research, and the SOC analyst joined in the fight here, and we would do some patch diffing. That's kind of that process where you download the latest version of the software that has the changes and the fix that it's telling everyone to go update to. Then we'll actually download the previous version, what was released prior, and try to uncover and unravel and reverse engineer some of the libraries and source code behind it. We'll look for the differences, the changes, the delta, and what was modified between the latest version and the new one that has the fix and update for this security vulnerability. So Caleb, good friend of mine, says, I wonder, could you get to the setup page for like a fresh new installation of a ScreenConnect server even if it was already set up previously. Like you configuring and standing up a whole new ScreenConnect as the administrator, I wonder if you could re-roll it and have your own capability where you redefine the new admin capability, new admin credentials and passwords, and just make it your ScreenConnect instance all over again. And while we got to look at the code, we did see some of the oddities in how .NET, like that backend ASPX, whatever server-side code, would handle and process some of the requests. It would do some interesting stuff in the URL, or like that address bar at the top of your web browser. You could actually supply other trailing information at the end of an endpoint or a resource location you wanted to go to, and that might be bad news bears. So let me say how you could exploit this vulnerability. Say you wanted to be the next threat actor or APT adversary, I don't know, ransomware gang or cybercriminal. Look, you could just as easily hack any of the ScreenConnect servers out on the internet, and I'll spill the beans here. Step number 1. Just go to the setup wizard page /setupwizard.aspx. And then just add a /. Single key on your keyboard. Once you hit enter, you can move on to step 2. But there is no step 2. That's it. That's the hack. Adding a single / at the end of the setupwizard.aspx page would let you reinstall or reconfigure and set up from scratch as if this were a new install of the ScreenConnect server, letting you configure the new admin password, new credentials, and you could make it your own ScreenConnect instance. You just stole it. That is why we wanted to call this, and we kind of nicknamed a little dub of this vulnerability, slash and grab. So that very same day, we had recreated the vulnerability and had a proof of concept as to how this exploit worked. And it was super simple, right? It's trivial. But that kind of put us in a hard place because we can't exactly talk about this one. Normally, we'd love to share some of the mitigations or indicators of compromise, how you could see and determine whether or not you were affected by this vulnerability. But looking for any of those in the logs would just as easily be telling of what the vulnerability and exploit really is. And since this was just breaking news in the moment, we didn't want to tip our hand to actual threat actors, cyber criminals and hackers with ill intent to go beat this up and spray and pray across the open internet. So that put us in a rock in a hard place as to how can we share some of the actionable good insight to look for this vulnerability and better protect people in the world. But we did still want to get across the impact and the severity and the criticality of this vulnerability. So I put together, a little demonstration, some fireworks, so you could see what all this does. Because once that ScreenConnect server is compromised with this authentication bypass, you're an admin, and you could leverage a lot of the other controls, native and natural features of the ScreenConnect server to gain remote code execution. And you could drop files or manipulate anything on the host, and that server is now yours. And don't forget, this is an entry point. This is a foothold and initial access vector into a whole local area network, a whole domain, like an entire environment and infrastructure that it could do some lateral movements or threat actors and hackers could pivot around. And to boot, the ScreenConnect server has that control and capability to access and work with all the other machines that it would troubleshoot and connect to previously. So think of this wild supply chain-like scenario where the remote monitoring and management tool in your environment is compromised and it could just push code to all the other computers. This was bad. And we wanted to share all that news and do some rapid response to tell everyone absolutely 1000%, this is a tonight issue. Do not wait till tomorrow. Go patch ScreenConnect. But our Security Operations Center analysts and other researchers and detection engineers are still kind of stuck in that in-between of a rock and a hard place. How do we talk about this without spilling the beans as to how other hackers could abuse this? So we tried to walk that tightrope, sharing some detection guidance, and big shout out to a lot of our analysts that would say, look, if you were willing to look in the Windows event logs, you could track down some of the capability that was, manipulating or updating some some cached configuration files, like XML, where you'd see the new change, and there was at least some indicator of compromise that wasn't just the web server IAS access logs for a single /. But these are all things that our SOC analysts were up all night, working around the clock, trying to dig into, do their research, and triage. Now, if I may say, I got to work together alongside our SOC analysts, and we got to thinking, hey, what about those organizations and companies and businesses that have not yet patched, but are within our purview? Like, we could help, we could protect, and we could better secure. Well, we know that this vulnerability is a server-side problem, right? It's the code and the source code for the application running behind the scenes as you connect to this website. So it's all files and code like the .NET assemblies and ASPX really in the front end here that processes the input. So what if we could make the change that the patch would have in sort of a micro patch hotfix capability where we either disallow connectivity to that setupwizard.aspx file, or just tweak and change some of the logic that'll automatically implement the control, a micro patch, and a way to block or stop this exploit, where the vulnerability just isn't present anymore because we've added the safeguards. That small tweak, a hotfix, a little ingenuity, some clever creativity with the ASPX code, would limit the attack surface and protect those businesses, organizations, and companies that we want to secure, but they haven't had a chance to patch yet on their own. And this is all within the span of a single day while it's still breaking news. So let me walk back in our timeline, as we know so far, right? February 19th, ConnectWise releases that advisory. We get to recreate a proof of concept exploit for this vulnerability, but we can't really talk about it. We don't publicly share it because that would be bad. That would just genuinely be handing like a loaded weapon and gun to the threat actors, APTs, adversaries, cybercriminals, and hackers of the world to wreak havoc, do damage, and abuse this. But our SOC analysts, still working hard, do share some detection guidance, the information that doesn't let the cat out of the bag but still keeps folks aware, and we want to get out that hotfix. Now, following along, we see the community start to track this. You saw those news articles, you see the world spinning up on this, but February 20th, the day after, there hasn't yet been a public proof of concept. We're not seeing exploits or any in-the-wild compromises that take advantage of the ScreenConnect vulnerability. Yet. Until February 21st, when, look, and I'm not meaning to point fingers or throw shade, but suddenly a proof of concept exploit is made public, available out for the whole wide world on the internet with little GitHub tooling where you can point and shoot that simple, quick, and easy adding a / for this ScreenConnect exploit. This is when the floodgates open and cybercriminals begin to leverage this. And at that point, our Security Operations Center analysts, the detection engineers, the researchers, the whole team is saying, okay, let's go live with everything that we can. Let's try to share as much threat intel as humanly possible to make sure the whole world is aware and tracking this thing. That's when we say, okay, now we can talk about everything publicly. We'll share our technical analysis, all the details, threat intel, mitigations, recommendations, indicators of compromise, and we give this full analysis, everything that we can on the authentication bypass and the remote code execution vulnerabilities. Now at this point, a lot of the team has been kind of chasing the ambulance here for like 2 whole days. Working late, working around the clock, trying to keep up with this, get the word out, but it's kind of wearing us down. And I got to admit, hey, this is where I need to give the absolute biggest kudos, appreciation, and sincere thank you to a lot of our other Security Operations Center analysts. Because look, we've got some international folks. We have analysts and investigators over in Canada, in the United Kingdom, in Australia, and more. And they, in this follow the sun model, did some incredible work to keep digging into this. Now that an exploit was out and about in the wild, we saw servers getting popped, ScreenConnect instances being compromised left and right, and the world seemed to chase this. So our Security Operations Center analysts put together this incredible write-up, breakdown, and debrief onto everything that they have seen for post-exploitation and malicious activity out on the internet. Now, I won't drag you through that whole thing, but I do want to hit some of the highlights as to what our SOC analysts were digging into. Obviously, we saw threat actors, cybercriminals deploying ransomware, enumerating the environment, kind of surveying the scene, see what else they might have access to following this initial access, running cryptocurrency miners. Boring, dumb, and stupid. I don't know why you burn this capability on something so silly, but that's what we saw. Additional remote access, trying to install other mechanisms like a team viewer, like an AnyDesk, like simple help that they could use to still leverage this access. And downloading and using more tools and payloads. Cobalt Strike, namely, some of those post-exploitation frameworks, and staging persistence, how they could continue to control and access this server with backdoor access. There was some chatter across the industry that folks were seeing Lockbit ransomware deployed from this. But at that time, Lockbit was kind of, slowing down, not as active, and folks were thinking, is Lockbit back in operations? But this was the leaked Lockbit 3 builder, and you can see the process execution there running lb3.exe. That was something we would chase. And even folks using Google Chrome's remote desktop capability. I'm not sure if you've seen this before, but that is a real thing. Even Google Chrome offers some remote desktop capability, and we saw some PowerShell being leveraged to download that from real legitimate Google, staging it, and then using that as another backdoor. And out of all the things that our SOC analysts dug into, honestly, just those were the only interesting or remotely noteworthy things. One of our security operations center managers, an incredible analyst, Dre, he says, this is a fantastic quote that I think is super duper pithy and I hope resonates with you. He says, look, most of the tradecraft that we documented here in this write-up isn't novel, original, or outstanding. We saw cryptocurrency miners. The same stuff we always see with Cobalt Strike and all that. So he continues, cybercriminals are rarely sophisticated, and the InfoSec community can beat them together. It takes a team. It takes all of us playing in concert, and hey, a lot of the security operations center analysts that do incredible, phenomenal work day in and day out. Even with that, there's more innovation, creativity, and new possible development from opportunities and crazy rapid response chasing the ambulance incidents like this. Some cool capability that our SOC analyst work got to inspire was actually tracking, ScreenConnect hosts and real or legitimate, and then finding illegitimate connections and hosts in a partner environment. This is taking inventory as to what are the real applications or the malicious and untrusted applications across an entire org. All those innovations, new additions, process improvements, workflows, all that could not have come without the great, incredible work from our security operations center analysts. All right. Now I'm gonna go off camera for a little bit because I really want to showcase and celebrate a lot of the incredible work from our security operations center analysts during this incident. So here are some screenshots genuinely from our Slack channel, a little bit behind the scenes. You can see the channel name there, just a temporary rapid response, sort of that internal name that we call all this activity when we spring into action for ScreenConnect in 2024, February 19th, when this all kicked off. Now you can see the date here, February 21st, when the exploit is out in the wild and, easily weaponized across any server out on the internet. So Susie chimes in. She says, look, I'm getting a flood of alerts in our queue, over 100, about 117 at the moment, all spawning from ScreenConnect and downloading from this transfer.sh website. A lot of reactions, a lot of replies and responses there, and some of the folks might be familiar with that transfer.sh website. That's another publicly accessible just resource out on the internet to host or serve other commands, other data, other information, and ultimately, in this case, using code to serve more post-exploitation capability. Following that, February 22nd, you can see this continuing. Dre, as I mentioned previously, one of our security operations center managers over in the UK, he notes, look, I see this host, this specific instance for ScreenConnect has also been compromised. I see it delivering Cobalt Strike, other beacons and implants on that host machine, and present on 7 other hosts. So this is expanding, this is growing. And of course, he's kicking off some incident reports, trying to get the messaging out and about. And I know, maybe sending out incident reports might just be considered table stakes. Hey, that's the usual expectation for SOC analysts, but look at this. In the middle of the frenzy, in the middle of the fire hose, still doing that active triage and investigation, digging down into things to detect, Cobalt Strike on that host, and now prevalent on other machines throughout the local area network. That's still some effort and investigation. Hats off to the Security Operations Center analysts chasing this thing. But it doesn't stop. Just as I mentioned, hey, we see more conversation. Faith chiming in, ScreenConnect instances compromised, now delivering that Lockbit ransomware. And again, this was that variant that was just leaked and freely available online, not true Lockbit ransomware, gang, but the malware is still just as effective. That led to the entire IT department being compromised. And noting that's one managed service provider instance that is going to have implications outside of the hosts that we had visibility over. Think of all the downstream components, maybe the other organizations, businesses, and companies that single entity, that organization even supports. Faith notes that spread out over 3 different organizations, and they've gone ahead and issued network-wide isolation and quarantining all of those environments. She lists out the hosts affected, and I gotta admit, this is just a truncated screenshot. There were significantly more in this pile. JB, another analyst, chimes in and says, hey, I'm seeing more activity, additional activity potentially related. All these different hosts within one organization that have Cobalt Strike and that post-exploitation dropped all at the same time, seeing some of the tradecraft here. Curl commands that is native and working on Windows, by the way, that is something that's staged and included in recent versions, all calling out to some strange domain, minish.wiki.gd, whatever, with a c.pdf file. But that's not a PDF file as you might think of it. They save all this as an update.dat, and of course, hey, they've isolated the domain and organization here. I want to drill down just a little bit on this screenshot, and I know this is a lot of text, so please forgive me, I'm sorry, but hey, a couple of the arrows showcasing some of the interesting capability here. You might be able to see the command prompt, the processes that are being invoked, cmd.exe, using run.dll to use that update.dat file from that strange c.pdf we saw downloaded from that domain, using that with a service that they call backup. This is what the adversaries, the hackers, and threat actors actually defined here, where they're calling that code and setting it up as a persistence mechanism. Another implant, another beacon, more hooks and claws to maintain access in the environment. Following further down, you can see this all actually run, and all of this is coming out of that compromised ScreenConnect server. Some of the other peculiar things here, don't forget it is the ScreenConnect server that's vulnerable and can be compromised, but all of the clients, the connected computers that it would have had access to, hey, that threat actor, that adversary, could just as easily connect to those and do more damage. Dre was noting some really interesting tradecraft over in the SOC activities thread, something that we spin up and get together for these rapid response initiatives. And he says, hey, I think this is an adversary actually running a script to try and determine what sort of user privileges they have, what permissions are available. And actually, they exfiltrate this out to an external domain. You can see the PowerShell command here. They do an invoke web request to a specific URL, just including the threat actor's IP address with a my username tag and filling in the environment variable for the username. That's going to help them determine, hey, am I Joe Schmo? Am I employee Alice? Or am I NT authority system? And do I have full control over the server? In which case they do, but when they fan that out across all of the other downstream connected computers, hey, that could be even more capability and worthwhile to scan and enumerate the environment. But I want you to think of the perspective of the SOC analyst, scrolling through all these logs, looking through the dashboard, keep an eye in the seam, and really seeing stuff over and over and over again, where you gotta deconflict and determine the context of like, is this good, bad, or ugly? Obviously, some might stick out like a sore thumb here, but it's still day in and day out work, and I just gotta give them props for it. And I really want to emphasize, I do want to underline and foot stomp, whatever term we could use here to just, hey, drill this home. Big shout out to Josh here. You can see when he was doing some threat hunting, he found a handful of instances being exploited. But look, this work is so important because it affects real things, real people, real businesses, real companies that have a huge impact and extreme value in our world, like day to day. Look at this. He notes a couple of these activities, a couple of these hosts, things that were compromised in organizations that are vets or healthcare related, medical. I don't want to go so far as to say hospital. I don't know in the moment, but that's really the tech that we rely on in critical, vital systems and services. The security operations center analysts of our world are the ones protecting that. And I know they are the unsung heroes of our industry, but they are so deserving of that kudos, of that gratitude, of that appreciation, and I hope we can help give that today. And by the way, this message that our SOC analyst Josh had shared had even more hosts and endpoints and servers and computers affected. I know this is probably a little bit of a useless slide here because I've got to redact all of it really, but just look at that long laundry list of affected devices. It is our SOC analysts that are keeping tabs on this and keeping the watch. Through the course of those 2 days, 3 if you want to call it, across Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, our analysts sent over 1,641 incident reports for endpoints that have vulnerable versions of ScreenConnect to proactively let folks know, hey, this is something that you urgently need to get in the middle of. And what we could try to do, the help with our little micro patch, the hotfix we wanted to offer, that's about 669 endpoints. So it is really cool to tie some data to this, get some metrics and other analytics, but again, that is all thanks to the hard work of our SOC analysts. And seeing the impact, seeing the value, seeing, hey, we can go up to bat in moments like these, that's an incredible thing. But the team is doing it each and every day. And if I may get a little bit nerdy here, look, it continues. I know Saturday, if we keep following through this timeline, Dre chimes in again. We're actually seeing some ScreenConnect servers compromise, and they're enumerating each and every drive or volume on the computer, like your C drive, your D drive, your E drive, whatever hard disk and file system you might have. They actually loop through it and then add antivirus exclusions so that Windows Defender or whatever other AV you have on the system won't trigger or analyze or do anything for each of those drives. Kind of funny tradecraft to see it loop through all of them. But again, SOC analysts reporting this, locking the network down, and communicating with the stakeholders. And goodness, I'm sorry for that, hey, safari ride showcase of all those SOC analyst activities there, but I do hope that helps paint the picture. And look, at the end of the day, we did see this authentication bypass and remote code execution come to life. You can see the CVE details in NIST and their National Vulnerability Database, and it felt good. It was just fulfilling and meaningful to play a part in that, and I hope all of you tuning in were the very same. Or if not, you will be. You'll take a lot of that insight, you'll take a lot of the info, and you'll know, okay, we're gonna fight the good fight the next time this happens, and get the team, everyone, SOC analysts included, all in on the fight. So with that all said, look, I gotta be honest, I think we tend to think, and maybe a little bit of a humble brag, we were just really pleased and proud with this incident. Trying to chase the ambulance, and I know that's what it is, but we felt like this was a home run. It's a matter of having great people, an incredible team, and all of the analysts, investigators, detection engineers, and researchers working together, working as a team and working in harmony to get ahead of this. We got to add those new capabilities and improvements to our platform that help aid and enable more threat hunting, more malware analysis, more investigations, and incredible SOC analyst work. And at the end of the day, it's all about the community. It's all about the collaboration, the partnerships, the work that we can do with even other vendors, with other, threat intelligence providers, anyone that is out chasing this thing. It is a threat that we're all digging into, and it takes everyone playing in concert to make it happen. Even when some nightmare scenario falls out of the sky like this ScreenConnect rapid response and incident response, look, it takes the security operations center analysts, detection engineers, researchers, investigators, everyone earning cybersecurity and helping making us secure each and every day. So thank you, SOC analysts, everyone, especially thank you to you for tuning in and listening to me ramble for a little bit. Thanks for your attention in this presentation. I hope you enjoy the SOC Analyst Appreciation Day. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of it, and I cannot express my gratitude more and more and more. You all deserve it, and keep doing incredible things.